He's holding the check. 8 digits. $15 million. His hands are shaking, not from excitement, from something else. Something he doesn't have a name for yet. This is Jack Whittaker, December 2002, West Virginia. He just won the largest single-ticket jackpot in American history. The cameras are everywhere, reporters shouting questions, strangers already asking for money. And Jack is smiling, because that's what you're supposed to do when your life changes forever in a gas station parking lot. But here's what nobody tells you about winning the lottery. The check is just the beginning. The real story starts after the confetti falls, after the news vans leave, after everyone you've ever known suddenly remembers your phone number. Jack was already wealthy before this. He owned a construction company, made good money, lived comfortably. He didn't need this, but he played anyway. And now he's standing at a press conference, promising to give 10% to charity, promising to help his community, promising to stay grounded. The journalists write it all down. They love a humble winner. But there's a look in Jack's eyes, something the cameras don't quite catch, a flicker of something. Fear, maybe, or recognition, like he already knows how this ends. Within weeks, the requests start pouring in. Letters, hundreds of them. Strangers asking for medical bills to be paid. Churches asking for donations. Distant relatives he's never met asking for loans. People showing up at his house, unannounced, just showing up. Some crying, some angry he hasn't responded yet. Jack tries to help, he really does. He donates to local causes, gives money to friends, helps family members pay off debts. But it's never enough, because there's always one more person, one more cause, one more emergency. And slowly, quietly, something inside him starts to shift. He stops going to his favorite diner. Too many eyes, too many hands reaching out. He stops answering calls from numbers he doesn't recognize. He hires security, not because he's paranoid, but because someone tried to follow him home, twice. His granddaughter, Brandy, starts getting attention too. Boys suddenly interested, friends suddenly abundant. She's 16, and she has access to more money than most adults will see in a lifetime. Jack watches this happening, and he can't stop it. Because how do you protect someone from generosity? How do you say no to family? How do you stay normal when nothing is normal anymore? The money was supposed to solve problems, but it's creating new ones, faster than he can count. And somewhere in the back of his mind, Jack starts to wonder if he made a mistake, not buying the ticket, but cashing it. The thing about sudden wealth is this. It doesn't just change your bank account. It changes how people see you, how you see yourself, how you move through the world. And Jack Whittaker is about to learn that lesson in the hardest way possible. If you're curious where this goes, maybe hit the like button, because this story gets darker than you think. 6 months after winning, Jack's carrying $545,000 in cash, in a briefcase, to a strip club. Let that sink in for a second. $500,000 in a bag at 2 a.m. He leaves it in his car for just a moment, and when he comes back, it's gone. Smashed window, empty briefcase, gone. The police find it later. The thieves panicked, dumped the bag behind the grocery store. But here's the thing that haunts this moment. Jack didn't even notice the money was missing. For hours. That's how disconnected he'd become from the value of money, from reality, from himself. His wife, Jewel, watches him unravel. The man she married is disappearing, replaced by someone she doesn't recognize. He's drinking more, gambling more, carrying absurd amounts of cash everywhere, like he's testing something. Testing if losing money will hurt. It doesn't, and that might be the scariest part. Meanwhile, Brandy is spiraling too. She's dating older men, men who didn't exist in her life 6 months ago. She's using drugs, hard drugs, and Jack knows. Everyone knows. But the money makes it complicated, because she has access to it, and access means freedom, and freedom without boundaries is just chaos. Jack tries interventions, therapy, rehab programs, but money has a way of undoing structure, of creating escape routes where there shouldn't be any. Then comes the lawsuit, then another, then another. People suing him for things he didn't do, for promises he didn't make, for debts he doesn't owe. It doesn't matter. They know he can settle, and settling is easier than fighting, so he pays, again and again. His lawyers tell him to stop, but Jack is tired. Tired of being the villain in other people's stories. Tired of being the target. Tired of defending himself for winning a lottery he didn't ask for. He starts withdrawing from everyone. Friends stop calling, not because they want to, but because Jack stops answering. The isolation feels safer, less complicated. No one asking for anything, no one pretending to care. Just him, and the money, and the quiet, creepy realization that he's more alone now than he ever was before. Jewel tries to reach him, but there's a wall now, built from resentment and exhaustion, and something heavier. Guilt, maybe, for bringing this into their lives, for thinking it would be different, for believing he could handle it. And then, December 2004, 2 years after the win, Brandy is found dead, wrapped in a tarp, behind the junked van. She overdosed, alone. She was 17. Jack doesn't speak at the funeral. He can't, because what do you say? What do you say when money was supposed to give your family everything, and instead, it took the only thing that mattered? The reporters come back, not to celebrate this time, to document the fall, the curse of the lottery winner, the tragedy, the cautionary tale. And Jack lets them, because maybe if his suffering means something, if it warrants someone else, then Brandy's death wasn't completely senseless. But deep down he knows, it won't stop anyone. People will still play, still dream, still believe they'll be different, just like he did. 4 years after winning, Jack's construction business is failing. The same business he built from nothing, the one that made him a millionaire before the lottery. He can't focus anymore. Employees steal from him, not because they need to, but because they can, because Jack stopped caring. His house gets broken into multiple times. They're looking for cash. Everyone knows he keeps it around. $100 bills in drawers, thousands in coat pockets, money scattered like trash. Because when you have too much of something, it stops meaning anything. Jewel files for divorce after 42 years of marriage. She can't watch him destroy himself anymore, can't live in the wreckage of what they used to be. Jack doesn't fight it. What's left to fight for? Then his daughter Gwen dies, Brandy's mother. She never recovered from losing her child. The grief hollowed her out, and in 2009, she's gone too. Jack buries her next to Brandy. 2 graves, 2 people the money couldn't save, couldn't protect, couldn't bring back. He's interviewed years later. Gray hair, tired eyes, the kind of tired that sleep doesn't fix. They ask him if he regrets winning, and Jack doesn't hesitate. I wish I'd torn that ticket up. Not gambled the money away, not lost it to thieves. Torn it up before any of this started. The reporter asks why, and Jack just stares. Because how do you explain that? How do you explain that $15 million cost you everything? Your peace, your family, your reason to wake up. He says he wishes he'd stayed anonymous, but West Virginia didn't allow that. Winners had to go public, had to smile for the cameras, had to become targets. By 2016, the money is gone. All of it. $15 million vanished. Not through investments, not through living large, through lawsuits, theft, handouts, and apathy, through the slow erosion of caring. Jack goes back to work, not because he has to, but because he needs something to do, some reason to exist. The reporters stop calling. The strangers stop showing up. He's just a man again, an old man with 2 graves to visit, and a story nobody wants to hear, because it's not inspiring. It's not a dream. It's a warning about what happens when you get everything you thought you wanted and realize too late that you already had everything you needed. Jack Whittaker died in 2020, alone, in the same town where he won. And if you ask people who knew him, they'll tell you the same thing. The lottery didn't make him rich. It made him a ghost, a man haunted by a ticket, by a choice, by the belief that more is always better. Average Joe wasn't in the story, but he could have been. Any of us could have been. That's the thing about these stories. They're not about other people. They're about us and what we think we want versus what we actually need. Jack's story isn't about money. It's about identity, about what happens when the world sees you differently and you start seeing yourself through their eyes. The saddest part? He tried to warn people before he died, told them not to play, not to dream of winning, but they did anyway, because we always think we'll be different. We won't lose ourselves. We won't change. We'll be the exception. Jack thought that too. If this story made you think twice about what wealth actually means, go ahead and leave a like. Drop a comment about what surprised you most about Jack's story. or what you think you'd do differently. Subscribe if you want more psychological money stories like this. Real people, real choices, real consequences. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, share it with them. Not as a lecture, just as a story worth thinking about. Thanks for watching.